School. Oh, hey everybody. I'm just practicing my lines because I'm doing a Christmas play at my church. And speaking of Christmas, Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope some of you are going to be having a spectacular Christmas. And I know I haven't been doing any Christmas stuff lately, but there's something I was saving for a very good occasion in this one. Right now, remember back then, I did a Christmas Carol version by my YouTube channel when I did Multi Voice Reviewer Christmas Carol. And you can easily just find that movie. It's on my YouTube channel, so it'll probably pop up after I'm done. But let's just say somebody had did a movie where it talks about the man behind the Christmas Carol. And of course, Charles Dickens himself told me about it, that they made a movie about him, and he wanted me to do a review of it. After all, Charles Dickens did show up to show what happens if I don't continue on my Christmas spirit. So, without further ado, I'm going to do a review of The Man Who Invented Christmas. Now, it's based on a real person of Charles Dickens himself. Except in this movie, it takes place after... Turns out that Charles Dickens been writing a couple of his books, and some of them didn't turn out as good sellers as they used to be. And of course, we see Charles Dickens played by none other than Dan Stevens. Yeah, he's playing Charles Dickens. And I gotta say, his performance was outstanding. After his trip from America, he told his publisher people that he's not gonna... he's kind of fed up with America, so he decided to write another book. Since he hasn't been writing lately, so it's time for him to write another book. And he decided to write a book involving Christmas. But his publisher people think it's not a good idea to write a book on Christmas because everybody will be off work on Christmas. But he wants to write a book that involves Christmas. So he decided to go into his room, and his maid, Mrs. Fisk, played by Merriman Gargus. Yeah, that's her name. She plays the maid. And of course, he also meets his wife, Kate Dickens, played by the lovely Murford Clark. And of course, they're trying to redecorate his house at the same time, going through the whole deal. And of course, he meets his friend, John Forrester, who soon's going to become the ghost of Christmas Present in his imagination, played by Justin Edwards. And while he was in his room, he starts hearing noises, and he meets his new maid named Tara, who sooner or later he's going to imagine her as a ghost of Christmas Past, played by the ever so lovely Anna Murphy. You know, it's kind of surprising. I mean, is it me, or am I finding beautiful British girls? Well, actually, she's playing an Irish girl, but I don't know if she's really Irish or not. But if she is, damn. And of course, Charles Dickens, he starts having dreams about his past, where he was with his dad, John Dickens, played by Jonathan Pryce. And of course, his mother, Liz Dickens, played by Gar Ryan. And while he was exploring, walking around the streets of London, he finally found a guy who was perfect to be his main character, Ebenezer Scrooge, played by the late, great Christopher Plummer. And now he starts imagining Scrooge talking to him while he's keep on writing and writing about the Christmas Carol. And during his midst, he met a guy who's supposed to help him out with some of the payment for his book, named Haddock, which in his imagination he's going to become Marley, played by none other than Daniel Sumner. And I recognize Daniel Sumner because he played Rassilon on the Doctor Who, the Capaldi era. Oh, sooner or later I am going to be doing the Doctor Who-a-thon. It's just I'm going through a little bit of a issue here and there, but I found a new channel, but if everything gets settled, I'll probably be able to continue on my Doctor Who-a-thon, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, while he was working on his book, he decided to contact the artist who did the artwork for his book, who goes by the name of Leech, played by Simon Carl. And also, the rest of his family showed up. His brother-in-law, Henry Burnett. And sooner or later, he's going to be his Bob Cratchit, played by Morris Lamp. And also his sister, Fanny Dickens. She's going to be his Mrs. Cratchit, played by the lovely Kate McGinnis. And of course, he's going to meet Henry Jr., his nephew, and he's imagining him as his Tiny Tim, played by Paris Kearney. And of course, he starts imagining Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig, because he saw these two middle-aged couple who still dance around in the street, which that becomes his fantasy of Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig. And then he starts imagining the Ghosts of Christmas Future, which it's not in the credits, but he's played by Fabinos Raggio. Now, he starts arguing with his imagination of his characters for his book, and he getting so frustrated. And of course, he also noticed that he keeps having memories of his past, where his father was arrested for stealing some things, and he was forced to work like all the little kids back in the Victorian era. Because back in the Victorian era, the poor kids have to work while the rich kids stay with their parents. That's how it was in the Victorian era. So Charles Dickens must have had a miserable childhood in his past. And of course, he also noticed that his father, he kept stealing some of his manuscripts from the dumpster in order to make money by selling them, which that really upset him really bad. And to make matters worse, he even lashed at Tara the maid, and that caused him to fire her. Gee, after he borrowed her book of Varney the Vampire and he gave her his book of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. And of course, when he was about done with his book, he did put in the book that Tiny Tim dies. Now, Tara the maid and his friend John, they don't like that part. They don't like the part of the story where the young boy, Tiny Tim dies. Because it's supposed to be a Christmas. It's a Christmas story. It needs hope. And he's all frustrated about it until he finally went to that abandoned factory where he used to work as a child and kept having flashbacks of his past. And then he started arguing with Scrooge, telling him that sooner or later after you die, you're going to be horrible and evil. And then that's when Scrooge told him, I want to live. I want to do better. I want to be a better person. And helped him. And that's what gave him the idea at the end of his book. Since everybody knew in the story, when Scrooge sees his past, he noticed that nobody never loved him, nobody had no respect for him, he'll be long forgotten after he dies. And also Timmy will be gone too. So therefore, he decided to change for the better and be a better person. And of course, some of the speeches that Scrooge says, he learned it from one of the rich people who says that aren't there any workhouses? Aren't there any places for the poor? And Dickens said some people rather die. And he said, well, let them die. Increase the circus population. Decrease the population. Which that gave him the idea what Scrooge says. So, everything that he goes through became inspiration for his book. And of course, he did argue with Leech over the Ghost of Christmas Present. He said he ain't supposed to be big and scary. He's supposed to be fat and jolly, more like his friend John, which he had John put on a fake beard and wear a robe and hold up a candle. Hold up a torch. Who knows, maybe in the future I might be the Ghost of Christmas Present. Because there's nothing better like the presents, when there's always hope and joy in the presents, especially when you're with your family and friends. So, pretty much, he had everything set. Everything set on his book. And he finally finished the book that he put down on every single part of his script. And he discovered that he burned some bridges. He did broke some hearts, so he decided to make it what's right. He went all the way to apologize to his dad because he's really sorry the way he lashed at him. And he would try his best to help his dad and his mom. And of course, Tara the maid, she returned home because she wanted to return the book that he gave her. And he told Tara that Tim didn't die. Scrooge changed, and he helped Tim. And also tell her that she's not fired. And even the wife is being pleased that Charles Dickens now started to lighten up after he's done with his book. Because she was getting fed up with Dickens and him. She even said that the way how he's been behaving, he seemed to love his characters more than his real family, the way he behaves. So after he finally published the book, Dickens' book, A Christmas Story, became a #1 seller, and it even wowed everybody back in the Victorian era. And it became a huge success that many people wanted to buy their copy of Christmas Carol everywhere. Now, I don't have any of the books. A long time ago, I did have a Christmas Carol pop-up book, but of course that's long gone. But who knows? And of course, that's the reason why I love Christmas Carol, because it had some scariness to it, but not in a horror movie style. I mean, I love the ghosts, I love the story, and I mean, even Dickens himself kind of wonder, can somebody change overnight? Well, in reality, in reality, people can change, but it would take months or years to change because it's not easy. But in Dickens' book, Scrooge changed by seeing the future of what's going to become if he keeps on being the way he is. Because the book itself, it teaches a lot about trying to be a better person and try to care for others. And that's exactly what the book is mentioning. And that's why Christmas always says peace on earth and goodwill towards men. And I just go by that. So, even though I'm not much of a Christmas person, but I understand it. Because I live my entire life trying to be a better person and care for others. And don't trying to be grumpy or mean towards others or anything like that, because it's not exactly what I want to go by. And that's one thing Dickens went through. It gave him the inspiration for his book. And then, I mean, one thing I have heard, every time when the author written a successful book, one thing that authors always do, way before people start making movie adaptations and cartoon adaptations and such, the writers always stand right in the center stage, wowing everybody, telling him about his story. Being like the narrator, telling him how his story goes. Way before Hollywood starts making movie adaptations and such. And even play adaptations as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is my review for the day. For those of you who enjoyed my review of The Man Who Invented Christmas, please leave a comment down below, hit like, and subscribe for more. And what am I going to be reviewing after Christmas? Well, hello. I found this. It's a little bit of a homage to my childhood. The Turbo Man action figure. I had this since 1996. Although I lost the visor and the boomerang and the disc for the shooter. And of course, he doesn't talk anymore because the batteries in him is dead. And he was in the basement for so long that I don't think it'll be working at all. I mean, heck, the wings don't light up and make a sound. What the hell? Stay tuned next week, because my next review is going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger's Jingle All the Way. Since I found this, I decided what the hell. I'm going to review Jingle All the Way. So I'm going to end this review with a song. Put that cookie, 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 put that cookie down, cookie down, cookie down, put it down now, down, put the cookie down, put the cookie down, put the cookie down now.